the vast, gleaming halls of the Interstellar Academy, Jae-hwa Kim felt like a single drop of water in an endless alien ocean. The massive campus stretched out before him, a complex maze of transparent walkways and gravity-defying architecture that seemed designed to make him feel small. Jae-hwa was the only human student in his cohort. Every morning he would walk into the massive lecture hall, his dark hair neatly combed, his uniform crisp and clean, knowing that every eye would turn to look at him. Not with welcome, but with something closer to contempt. The Vortian students towered over him, their translucent skin shifting colors with their emotions. Today they were a mix of deep purple and angry red. Hyun-ki, the largest Vortian in the class, deliberately pushed past Jae-hwa, causing his datapad to clatter to the floor. Scattered laughter erupted around him. "Sorry," Jae-hwa muttered, though he wasn't sorry at all. He knew the game. Show weakness, and they would continue to target him. Show anger, and they would see him as primitive. The academy was supposed to be a place of learning, of understanding different species and their unique capabilities. But for Jae-hwa, it felt more like a battlefield. Each day was a fight to prove his worth, to show that humans were more than the backward species everyone believed them to be. During the advanced xenobiology lecture, Professor Aliyah, a six-armed Krell scientist, was discussing adaptive survival mechanisms. Jae-hwa listened intently, his notebook filled with precise, careful notes. While other students seemed bored, he was fascinated by the intricate details of alien biological systems. Humans have the least adaptive capabilities among known intelligent species, Hyun-ki loudly commented from the back of the room. More laughter followed. Jae-hwa didn't turn around. He knew responding would only make things worse. Instead, he continued taking notes, his hand steady, his focus unwavering. At lunch, he sat alone. The cafeteria was a massive circular room with gravity, zones that allowed different species to eat in their most comfortable environments. Aquatic beings floated in water tanks, gaseous creatures hovered in controlled atmospheric bubbles, and terrestrial species sat at various gravity-adjusted tables. Jae-hwa's table was always empty. Other students would rather stand than sit near him. He pulled out a small container of traditional Korean food his mother had prepared before he left Earth. The familiar smell of kimchi and rice brought a moment of comfort in this alien world. A few nearby students wrinkled their sensory appendages, clearly disgusted by the Earth food. The Academy's daily challenge board caught his attention. Tomorrow's interdisciplinary survival simulation would test students' adaptability across multiple environmental conditions. Most students were already discussing strategies, forming groups, planning their approach. No one had invited Jae-hwa to join any group. As the day progressed, the subtle harassment continued. A Vortian student accidentally spilled a chemical solution near Jae-hwa's workstation during the lab session. Another mistakenly bumped his chair during a complex quantum mechanics lecture, causing his carefully balanced equipment to topple. Each time, Jae-hwa remained calm. He cleaned up without complaint, reset his equipment, continued working. What his tormentors didn't know was that every slight, every moment of bullying, was teaching him something. He was learning their behaviors, understanding their strategies, observing their weaknesses. Humans might be considered the least adaptive species, but Jae-hwa knew differently. Adaptation wasn't just about physical capabilities. It was about mental resilience, about understanding, about patience. As the Academy's artificial sunlight began to dim, signaling the end of the academic day, Jae-hwa packed his things. He walked out of the lecture hall, back straight, eyes forward. Tomorrow was the survival simulation. And while everyone believed he would fail, Jae-hwa knew something they didn't. The morning of the survival simulation arrived with an electric tension. Jae-hwa stood among his classmates, each dressed in specialized environmental suits, designed to protect against extreme conditions. The simulation was legendary at the Interstellar Academy, a test that had broken many students before. Professor Aliyah's voice echoed through the preparation chamber. Today's challenge will simulate 5 different planetary environments. You will work in teams to survive, adapt, and overcome unexpected obstacles. Team assignments appeared on the holographic display. Jaehwa's heart sank. As expected, he was the last choice, grouped with the most challenging and least cooperative students from various species. His team consisted of Krell, a methane-breathing rock-like creature, Zara, a winged humanoid from a high-gravity planet, and Vor, a Vortian known for his particularly aggressive attitude towards humans. They looked at Jaehwa with open contempt. "We're going to fail because of him," Vor muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. The simulation chamber transformed around them. First environment: a frozen wasteland with temperatures dropping to -150 degrees. Razor-sharp ice crystals cut through the air like invisible blades. The wind howled with a sound that seemed almost alive. Krell immediately began constructing a traditional shelter using techniques from its home planet. The design was complex but impractical for these conditions. Zara argued aggressively about her own survival method, creating more conflict than solution. Jaehwa observed silently. He recognized the fatal flaw in their approach. They were each trying to apply their home planet's survival techniques without considering the specific environment. As temperature dropped, equipment began to fail. Vor's protective suit started to crack under extreme cold. Zara's wings became brittle. Krell's rocky exterior began to show microscopic fractures. "We need to combine our knowledge," Jaehwa said quietly. No one listened. Hours passed. Their situation grew desperate. The team's communication became fragmented, filled with blame and frustration. Each team member was slowly losing hope, their individual survival instincts overriding any potential cooperation. Jaehwa remembered something from his survival training on Earth. Humans had survived some of the most challenging environments on their planet, from Arctic conditions to scorching deserts. Survival wasn't about individual strength, but about adaptability and teamwork. He began to modify their existing equipment. Using materials from their suits and broken communication devices, he started creating a more effective heat retention system. His hands moved quickly, combining technologies in ways no one expected. Vor watched with growing curiosity. "What are you doing?" he asked, a hint of desperation in his voice. "Surviving," Jaehwa responded simply. The simulation's artificial intelligence began introducing additional challenges. Radiation levels increased. Atmospheric pressure fluctuated wildly. Each change would have normally meant certain death for the team, but Jaehwa's improvised system began to stabilize their environment. He used Krell's rock-like material as a thermal conductor, integrated Zara's wing membrane as a protective layer, and repurposed Vor's communication tech to create an early warning system. Slowly, the team realized they were not just surviving, they were adapting. As the first environment phase ended, their survival rate was calculated. Against all expectations, they had not only survived but achieved one of the highest efficiency ratings in the simulation's history. Vor looked at Jaehwa with a mixture of shock and reluctant respect. "How did you do that?" he asked. Jaehwa simply smiled. "Humans learn. Humans adapt." The next environment loaded. A high-gravity volcanic landscape appeared, promising even more challenges. But this time, something had changed. The team looked at Jaehwa not with contempt, but with a newfound sense of curiosity and respect. The breaking point had come and gone, and Jaehwa had shown them something they had never expected from a human: true survival skills. As molten rock began to flow around them, their team stood united, ready to face whatever challenge came next. The simulation continued, and Jaehwa was just getting started. The second phase of the survival simulation pushed the team to their absolute limits. A toxic, atmospheric environment surrounded them, with chemical compositions that would kill most known species within minutes. Jaehwa's teammates watched him carefully now. Their previous contempt had transformed into a cautious curiosity. Vor, the Vortian who once mocked him, now stood closest to him, watching every movement. The environment was a nightmare of swirling green gases and razor-sharp mineral formations. Radiation levels fluctuated wildly. Standard protective suits began to deteriorate almost immediately. Most teams were failing within the first hour. Jaehwa's approach was different. He began examining the environment's chemical composition, using a small handheld analyzer he had modified during their previous challenge. His fingers moved quickly, breaking down complex molecular structures with an intuition that surprised his teammates. "We can neutralize these toxic gases," he explained, his voice calm and steady. "But we need to combine our unique biological capabilities." Krell's rocky exterior could withstand high chemical pressures. Zara's advanced respiratory system could filter microscopic particles. Vor's electromagnetic sensory abilities could detect subtle environmental changes, and Jaehwa's human adaptability would tie everything together. Most instructors watching the simulation believed the team would fail. Humans were considered the least adaptable species after all. Their technology was primitive, their biological systems weak compared to more advanced galactic species. But Jaehwa understood something fundamental. Survival wasn't about individual strength, but collective adaptation. He began constructing a filtration system using materials from their damaged suits. Krell's rocky material became a primary filter. Zara's wing membranes were transformed into a complex chemical neutralization layer. Vor's communication tech became an early warning system for toxic chemical changes. The team worked together, their movements becoming synchronized. Where hours ago they had fought and argued, now they moved like a single organism. Professor Aaliyah watched the holographic display with increasing interest. This team, specifically this human student, was doing something unprecedented. As toxic clouds intensified, most teams were evacuating or failing. Jaehwa's team not only survived but began to thrive. They were collecting data, understanding the environment, adapting in real time. Vor looked at Jaehwa with a mix of confusion and respect. "How are you doing this?" he asked. "Humans explore," Jaehwa responded. "We don't just survive. We understand." Their survival rate climbed higher and higher. Other teams watched in disbelief as Jaehwa's team continued functioning in an environment that should have killed them within moments. The simulation's artificial intelligence began introducing more complex challenges: gravitational shifts, sudden temperature drops, unexpected chemical reactions. Each challenge was designed to break their adaptive capabilities. But Jaehwa had learned something important. True adaptation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about understanding, creativity, and working together. As the toxic environment phase ended, their team's performance data shocked everyone. They had not just survived, they had achieved near-perfect adaptation. The holographic scoreboard lit up. Their team was ranked first, with a performance rating that broke all previous records. Silence filled the observation room. Instructors stared in disbelief. Other students looked shocked. A human student, leading a team of advanced alien species. Achieving the impossible. Jaehwa didn't celebrate. He simply looked at his teammates, a small smile on his face. They had done this together. Vor approached him, his translucent skin now showing a color of respect and understanding. "You are not what I expected," he said. "Humans rarely are," Jaehwa responded. The next environmental challenge loaded. More impossible conditions awaited. But now something had fundamentally changed. They were no longer just surviving. They were proving something much bigger, that humans were far more than anyone had ever imagined. The simulation continued, and Jaehwa was ready for whatever came next. The final stages of the survival simulation revealed more than just environmental challenges. It became a test of understanding, of perception, of the very nature of intelligence and adaptation. Jaehwa's team now moved like a single organism. Their previous conflicts had dissolved, replaced by a deep, unspoken understanding. Each member brought something unique, but it was Jaehwa who seemed to tie everything together. Professor Aaliyah began digging deeper into Jaehwa's background. Earth was rarely discussed in galactic academic circles. Most considered it a primitive planet barely worth mentioning. But something about this student challenged everything they thought they knew. The simulation introduced a complex neural link challenge. Teams had to solve interconnected problems that required simultaneous mental and physical adaptation. Most teams struggled, their different biological systems creating communication barriers. Jaehwa's approach was different. He understood that communication wasn't just about language, but about finding common ground. "We need to think as one," he told his teammates. Vor, Zara, and Krell looked at him, realizing he meant something deeper than just working together. As the challenge progressed, something extraordinary happened. Their team began to anticipate each other's moves. Vor's sensory abilities merged with Jaehwa's strategic thinking. Krell's physical resilience combined with Zara's quick decision-making. Historical records about human capabilities began appearing in the observation room's research database. Most were dismissed as exaggerations or mistakes. Humans had survived impossible conditions on their home planet. They had explored their own world's most extreme environments. They had adapted when everything seemed impossible. "Humans are not weak," Jaehwa said during a critical moment. "We are different." The simulation's complexity increased. Psychological barriers became as challenging as physical ones. Teams had to overcome not just environmental challenges, but their own mental limitations. Jaehwa shared stories about Earth, about how humans had survived ice ages, explored deep oceans, climbed impossible mountains, about how they had continuously pushed beyond their known limitations. Vor listened intently. His previous mockery had transformed into genuine curiosity. The neural link challenge reached its peak. Most teams had failed, but Jaehwa's team was creating something unprecedented, a form of communication that transcended individual biological limitations. Professor Aliyah watched in astonishment. The data streaming across her display showed something remarkable. This team wasn't just solving problems, they were redefining what problem-solving meant. Krell's rocky exterior began to show intricate patterns, a communication method never seen before. Zara's wing membranes pulsed with complex rhythms. Vor's sensory systems expanded, creating a network of understanding. And at the center of it all was Jaehwa, connecting everything. The observation room fell silent. Instructors who had previously dismissed humans now leaned forward, watching every movement. As the challenge concluded, their team's performance went beyond any previous record. They hadn't just completed the task, they had transformed the very concept of teamwork and adaptation. "Humans are not just survivors," Jaehwa explained to his stunned teammates. "We are creators. We find solutions where others see only problems." The simulation's final scores appeared. Their team wasn't just first, they had achieved a perfect score that had never been seen before. Vor looked at Jaehwa with complete respect now. "We were wrong about humans," he admitted. The revelation was clear. Humans were not the weak, primitive species everyone believed them to be. They were something else entirely, adaptable, creative, capable of understanding and connecting in ways no one had imagined. As the simulation ended, something had fundamentally changed, not just for Jaehwa, but for how the entire galaxy would view humanity. The universe was about to learn a powerful lesson. Humans were far more than anyone had ever expected. The aftermath of the survival simulation changed everything at the Interstellar Academy. Jaehwa became more than just a student. He became a symbol of something much larger. News of their extraordinary performance spread quickly. Other students who once mocked him now watched with a mixture of respect and curiosity. The hallways that were once filled with whispers of contempt now buzzed with conversations about the human student who had done the impossible. Professor Aliyah called Jaehwa to her private research chamber. The walls were filled with holographic displays showing complex data from the simulation. Her 6 arms moved carefully, highlighting specific moments of their team's performance. "You've revealed something about humanity that we didn't understand," she said, her translator device capturing the complexity of her alien language. Vor, who had become an unexpected ally, began sharing their team's experience with other students. His previous attitude of superiority had completely transformed. He spoke about Jaehua with a sense of genuine respect and admiration. The Academy's cultural exchange program suddenly found itself facing unexpected interest. Students from various planets began requesting more information about Earth. Courses about human history and adaptation were quickly added to the curriculum. Jaehua didn't seek attention. He continued his studies with the same quiet determination that had helped him survive the initial bullying. But now, things were different. His teammates protected him. Other students sought his advice. During an advanced problem-solving class, the instructor presented a complex scenario that had stumped previous generations of students. While others struggled, Jaehua's approach was uniquely human, breaking the problem down, finding unconventional connections, creating solutions that nobody had considered. The transformation wasn't just about Jaehua, it was about how the entire Academy viewed humanity. Researchers began revisiting historical records about human achievements. The moon landing, the exploration of extreme environments on Earth, the ability to adapt and survive in conditions that would destroy other species. 4. Approached Jaehua during a study session. "I want to understand your people better," he said. The request was genuine, free from the previous mockery. Jaehua shared stories about Earth, about survival, about pushing beyond limitations, about the human spirit of exploration and adaptation. The Academy's leadership began discussing a new approach to interspecies understanding. Jaehua's team became a case study, a perfect example of how different species could work together, combining their unique capabilities. During the final evaluation, something unprecedented happened. Jaehua was invited to speak to the entire Academy. The massive hall filled with students from hundreds of different planets, all waiting to hear from the human who had changed everything. "Adaptation isn't about being the strongest," Jaehua explained. "It's about understanding, about finding connections, about working together." His words resonated deeply. Students from species that had never spoken to each other before began discussing collaboration. The barriers that had existed for generations started to crumble. Professor Aaliyah watched from the sidelines, her scientific mind processing the profound cultural shift happening before her eyes. The transformation extended beyond the Academy. Diplomatic channels began requesting more information about human capabilities. Earth, once considered a backwater planet, was now a subject of serious study and respect. Jaehua's teammates remained close. Vor, Zara, and Krell had become more than just classmates. They were a family of sorts. Their bond demonstrated something powerful about potential and understanding. As the academic year concluded, Jaehua looked different. The scared, isolated student from the beginning of the year was gone. In his place stood someone confident, understanding, capable of bridging impossible gaps. The universe had learned an important lesson. Humans were not weak. They were not primitive. They were something else entirely, adaptable, creative, capable of understanding in ways no one had imagined. Jaehua smiled. This was just the beginning.